This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am Jason Jarvi. Not sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Vinny Stubbs.
Where the hell is he?
I know. I think he's working. Right? I don't know.
Yeah, it was what he texted us. He's like, someone called in, which actually has happened quite a bit the day after Easter. People are enjoying the days with their family, maybe overdoing it, and so one of his colleagues called off.
Vinny overdoing it? I don't think I've never.
No, Vinny didn't overdo it. Vinny's actually being responsible, and he had to cover for his boy who called in. So what are you gonna do?
Well, that's good for him. He may just be sitting at home though, trying to figure out his soundboard.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on in this Motor City Sports Rant podcast.
Yeah, we are. We just celebrated the holiday. Did you do anything special?
It was great, actually. It was done, I think, the best way. It's something I think we're going to do a lot more of. I had my in-laws come over, and my sister and her husband and her 3 kids. They came over early for an 11 o'clock brunch. They played outside a little bit because the weather was absolutely beautiful. They left by 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I got to enjoy the rest of the day. I think that's the best way to do it. Get it out of the way early, spend some time with the family, have a little fun. Kids took a nap. By 3 o'clock, got to rest the rest of the day, got outside a little bit. I enjoyed the Easter day. It was such a beautiful day. And nowadays in Michigan, you really got to take advantage of it. It was such a great day.
That's essentially the same thing we did. We had brunch at noon. By 3 o'clock, we were home. We cleaned out our cars, and yeah, we just hung out on the couch the rest of the day. So yeah, nice. What did they have at the brunch? Because the brunch I was at, we've been going to it for about 3-4 years now, and I feel like the breakfast-lunch ratio is a bit off. They go heavy on the lunch side, where they have an omelet station, they have a waffle bar, but beyond that, they don't have much more in the ways of breakfast. Like, they don't just have, I think the only thing that I just want a platter of eggs. I just wanted some scrambled eggs. I don't want to have to wait for an omelet bar. No,
my wife took care of everything. It was great. Brunch was at my house, and she had a good ratio. She had French toast bake, so she had made that, some cheesy potatoes, and she had, because she's Polish, so she had 2 different kinds of sausages, and it was perfect ratio. I think a couple things breakfast, couple things lunch-based. So I agree with you, and a lot of fruits and veggies. I agree. I think that if you go out for a brunch, you got to have eggs. You got to have at least an omelet station. You got to have waffles.
The sausage.
What's that?
Did you hide the sausage?
No, I did not hide the sausage.
I had to throw that in there. I mean, Vinny would have.
Yeah, I know.
You would have said something.
No, but I thought that there's a couple of nice places that have brunch around town. But yeah, if you go to a place they don't have a good amount of eggs, it's not really a good brunch at all.
And especially you don't want. I hate when they put out the eggs and it's like the eggs with peppers and onions in it.
Oh,
just give me regular eggs.
Yeah, the souped up egg or the cheesy eggs. No,
yeah, I don't need it.
Not good at all, my friend.
It was a pretty good holiday, though.
So, like everyone else, did you get out there around Metro Detroit and go see Batman versus Superman premiere?
I did. I actually saw it twice.
Twice?
I did, because Thursday, my brother took me to a special screening that he went to for work, which was kind of nice. And I got to sit there, free drinks. I made the bartender a little angry. I kept going back for more vodka tonics. And then I saw it the next day because I went with my brother-in-law, and there's kind of another reason because I don't know if you've seen Deadpool yet.
No, I'm not. And like I told you a little bit before we started the podcast, I'm not into the comic book movies. I'm more of a comedy guy.
So, but with Deadpool's kind of a comedy. Mm-hmm. But Deadpool, they actually, for their press screening, they didn't show the extra credit scene. So I went going on Friday. It was also, I didn't have to pay on Thursday, so I only really paid to see it once. But I went in Friday hoping that there might be an extra credit scene. Unfortunately, there wasn't. Okay. But yeah, went and saw it. I know all the critics are killing it. They're saying that the story's awful. I don't mind it. I thought it was exactly what I wanted. I wasn't going in there expecting to get like Pride and Prejudice or to get some performance by Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, it's Batman and Superman. Superman is the goody-goody. Batman he's the Dark Knight. And he also plays the playboy. I think Ben Affleck did a really good job portraying Bruce Wayne.
My boy Kenny is a big movie guy, and he said the kind of same thing, that it is a good movie for what it's supposed to do. But he said, in terms of the people that are looking at it, in terms of storytelling, he said there's a lot of storylines going all at once, and he felt like they just kind of crammed everything in that you could think of in the movie. And then the ending, he said he wasn't particularly fond of. So
I will agree. I think the way that they did kind of try to cram in stuff there, but they're competing with Marvel, and Marvel has this gigantic head start on them, and they've really kind of figured out how to do stuff. They've released, they have different stages that they've been releasing all these movies in. In DC, they're way behind the ball, and I think they're also kind of trying to cram themselves into the way that Christopher Nolan made those. I mean, he was famous for making the Dark Knight movies with the Batman Begins, kind of bringing it back from the whole George Clooney debacle. And when they initially made Man of Steel, that's kind of they tried to make it this darker movie where Superman isn't typically it's not a dark, brooding movie. And I think that's one issue that whole series, that whole DC kind of movie series is going to have, is that they're trying to make this kind of dark looking movie when, a lot of the stuff DC is very kind of lighthearted. It's for kids, and I think Marvel has done pretty good job of kind of balancing that out, of having serious stuff happen, but then there's also you get joking stuff like between Robert Downey Jr. and or Iron Man and Captain America kind of having a bromance. Okay,
so a lot of people also that are into the movies say that Zack Snyder is not really a great director. He's kind of ruining characters that people love, maybe not sticking exactly to form. Also, another part of the movie that people kind of wanted to see was the introduction into the Justice League to set that up. Did they do a good job of that? And I guess I understand the critic side. So for those that are liking the movie, what did you like about it? What was great?
What I'll say is Zack Snyder I think he's a very misunderstood director. And I think his biggest downfall is that he tries to fit too much in, he really reaches for it. And looking back at movies that he's done, I mean, he did the 300, which I think everybody loved it. But then everything else after that, I'm not sure if you saw Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch was it was so hyped, and previews looked awesome. But the only thing I could think of is when I went and saw it, the movie was dumb, and it was so. It might have just been the theater, but it was so loud. It wasn't a very good story. That wasn't a very good movie. He did Watchmen, which it was pretty true to what the comic was. I just don't think it was accepted, and because it was a darker movie. So with this movie, with the Man of Steel and then Batman versus Superman, what I liked. You put Batman versus Superman, and I know a lot of people.
They said the fight scene was awesome.
It was, and I think they could have done a little bit more with it. It would have been cool to see that. But people, I've read what the critics are saying, that kind of the way that they set up the fight, because I think that was probably the biggest question that anybody really had going into the movie is, well, why is Superman fighting Batman? These guys they're both good guys. Why are they fighting? I think. Personally, just as a fan, I thought they did a pretty good setup of why Bruce Wayne, Batman, wanted to take out Superman, and giving a reason to Superman now to actually want to fight Batman. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody because it is still pretty recently out there. So no spoilers on this podcast.
But they did a good job of setting up the Justice League. The fight scene was good. It was you were entertained. You didn't feel like it was too long or too nothing drawn out.
I was entertained the entire way through. I will say I'm not sure exactly how they're going forward, because I know the way that they did in the comics, or at least and then I almost spoiled something for you guys. But the way that I've seen what happens in the comics and how this movie ends, I don't know how they're going forward or how they're gonna kind of branch off. I mean, I think the Wonder Woman movie is actually what comes out next, and then it's going to be the Justice League movie. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Wonder Woman kind of looked, she was pretty cool. She hasn't really gotten the respect of getting a full movie for herself. I think it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
All right, King. So out of 5 crowns, how many crowns would you give it?
I'd give it 4 crowns.
4 crowns? Okay.
It's I thought Star Wars, I'd give Star Wars 5 crowns because I loved it. And that's more just for the fanboy in me. But it did everything that it wanted to for me. It gave me Batman versus Superman. I know everyone has essentially criticized everything in the movie. I like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. He was a quirky guy. I read somewhere that he could have played the Riddler, which he kind of had that in him. But he played basically a rich crazy guy, which I think we see a lot of that nowadays in our own lifetime. See rich crazy guys all the time.
All right, talk about crazy. Before we start talking about the Red Wings and what the hell we saw on Saturday versus Pittsburgh, one of the most disappointing things you're ever going to see in a hockey game. It's not too often that you really criticize effort, and it's not too many times where you could actually look at a performance and go, it doesn't look like they're trying all that much. After we're done, I got to tell you about a great email I got from someone, and here's their quote. It says, quote unquote, keep Jarvi in line. He's a troublemaker.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll share with you who said that to me after we're done here, but that's funny.
Right.
I didn't view you as a troublemaker, but you could be. I don't know.
Yeah, that's me, troublemaker.
Troublemaker Jarvi.
Totally.
All right, what the hell happened Saturday, man? It was a 1-0 lead. All was looking good. The Red Wings were playing well versus Pittsburgh that first period. Everything was shaping up to be okay. Then once Pittsburgh got on the board, the floodgates were open, and that was probably one of the most devastating periods you're going to see where they just kind of really fell apart, and nothing went right that second period in a 7-2 loss versus the Penguins in a game you had to have points. At home, you don't see the Wings getting booed off the ice too many times. It was devastating, and it was something that we're not used to seeing around here in these parts of town.
You know, I don't get what's going on with the Wings. They really don't have anything. Nothing's clicking. Their offense, they can't get that going. I think you see kind of spurts from the young guys, like Athanasiou got the goal. Mantha has gotten his first goal, but it's just not all clicking. You see teams, and you see playoff teams, they just have it going. All lines are producing. You can have your top line carrying you one night, and you can have your grind line carrying you one night. And for whatever reason, it's just not working right now. I think it also doesn't help that our defense is non-existent. You know, we have right now on that Penguins game, we had DeKaiser, Eriksson, Mike Green, Nick Cronwall, Kyle Quincy, and Brendan Smith. None of those guys have just panned out. I think Mike Green, I know people probably expected a lot more of Mike Green. I
did not. You were not that thrilled with the move, huh?
I was excited more for his offensive game, and that's really what I wanted to see from Mike Green. I knew that he wasn't really a defensive stalwart. He's more known for being an offensive defenseman. But we just don't have that other guy who can back us up. So Eriksson isn't that guy.
So you're seeing the defense not play well, and what was surprising was early on in the year the goaltending was pretty solid for the Red Wings. Mrazek had started the season off very well. You could say that he won the number one job. Now you could say that he's a young guy. He may be fading a little bit in the second half of the season, battled injuries a little bit. Jimmy Howard's been up and down. I'm kind of surprised that Blashill's going to peg Howard to play against Buffalo in a must-win game, but when you get pulled, Mrazek was devastatingly terrible versus Pittsburgh. He got pulled. Howard comes in. He wasn't that great. So it was a situation where now, if the goaltending goes south, you're going to be very concerned. So the defense, goaltending's not good. The power play has been up and down a little bit. They've shown a little bit of light in the last couple of games, but throughout the course of the season, not great. So when we look at everything, a lot of people are saying, okay, with the Red Wings, we got to start breaking down who the hell is to blame for this mess. Would you blame Blashill, a first-year head coach, kind of piecing everything together, getting his system in there? Would you blame Kenny Holland for putting this roster together, in terms of trying to get free agents in here, trying to put a nice blend of veterans with young talent, and it just hasn't gone right in this salary cap era? Because right now, these last couple years, the Red Wings have been just basically 6 to 8 seeds trying to fight to get into the playoffs year in, year out. When Mike Babcock left, when the Red Wings lost that series versus Tampa Bay, he said, hey, Tampa Bay is a young team, and our best players are guys in their late 30s. So that was kind of like a subliminal type thing saying, hey, now, maybe the talent that's around me isn't that good, and boom, I'm bolting. Or do you say, this is a roster of 25 players, it's up to them to step on the ice night in, night out, take what they've learned, and go out there and do it? who would you put most of the blame on in terms of what the hell's wrong with the Red Wings so far in this season?
Well, I always think it's kind of hard to. I mean, it does start with the players. These guys are professionals. They're in the NHL for a reason, and this is the Detroit Red Wings.
But they haven't been that way for years. I mean, I understand they've been in series, they've had leads, but they really haven't made a deep run in the better part of 5 years.
And I get that, but this is it's still professional. It's a professional league where I think this is really the first season where we've just been getting blown out in games. Like how many times have we seen it being like 5-2 or 6-2? I think we've seen that all too often. Just in the month of March, Peter Mrazek lost 7-2, lost 6-2, lost 5-2. That's all. It's lost 4-1. It's disheartening for the Red Wings. I think I probably put the majority of it on Ken Holland, because Babcock, we'd probably be in a similar situation if we still had Mike Babcock here. I'm going to be honest. We might be a little bit better because he probably wouldn't have given the younger players as much of a chance that Blashill has. But we'd probably still be fighting for 8th or 7th spot in the playoffs. Ken Holland is the guy who it kind of mirrors, at least for me, the way that the Green Bay Packers, that they've assembled their team. They're a really good team, but they've assembled it through drafting and making, just being smart business moves. They haven't gone out there and signed a big name player. And that's what the Wings, that's what they really need to do. When they were winning Stanley Cups, that's how they did it. They went out and they got players to come in and help them. We brought in Brendan Shanahan. We brought in Chris Chelios. We brought in Marian Hossa, Dominic Hasek. We brought in guys like that to help this team. And I get we're in a salary cap era where you can't just spend the most money and win a Stanley Cup, but you gotta do something.
You are spot on. At this point in time, you got to say that Kenny Holland has, signed some deals that haven't really helped them. You've tried in years past to bring on talent at the trade deadline, and they haven't panned out. I mean, you brought in David Legwan. Last year, you brought in Cole, and they just haven't panned out. And so this year, you try not to do a whole lot. You stand pat, and you're going to ride the wave of the team that you pretty much had. And you go out in the big splash. Everyone was pretty excited to have Mike Green, but it just hasn't worked out, and he hasn't even been the guy that you've wanted. He sprinkles in a little bit of getting into the zone and trying to get in there offensively, but I think we thought, based on what we've seen in the past, that he would mix it up more. It seems like he's trying, he's not doing what we brought him in here to do, and so he's been a major disappointment. So I agree. I think Kenny Holland, I don't think his seat's hot. I don't think they're going to fire him or Jeff Blashill, but if this playoff streak ends, I don't understand why you would crumble under the pressure of that streak. I don't think that the streak, I think it's an accomplishment that I know that this roster doesn't want to be the roster that doesn't get to the postseason. I think they should. That's why I was so shocked by what I saw Saturday, is that as a professional athlete, you think now it's crunch time. Now you got to get points. And you know that you can get into the postseason now for 25 years. That's an accomplishment. That's something that can keep going even beyond that based on what the Red Wings can do. And you have a lot of young talent. So to go out there on Saturday and not put forth that much of an effort, you're going to go out there sometimes and you're not going to play well. But when the effort goes down, then you start to say, okay, Kenny Holland doesn't have the right pieces. And then what the hell's Blashill doing in those meetings? Why isn't he at this point in time getting these guys who he knows? He's had relationships with most of these players. Why isn't he not getting them up for these big games? And this week's, as we're recording this, they would have played Buffalo. Tonight they're going to play Montreal. And most of the games the rest of the way, you're going to need points in. So I think a lot of blame would go to Kenny Holland, but also, too, I would say Jeff Blashill. I truly believe that with Mike Babcock, I don't think they'd be struggling as much. I do believe they would probably get to the postseason with Babcock, but it's a bit disappointing.
They probably get to the postseason, but they might not make it out of the first round again. They really are in kind of a must-win situation. Buffalo right now, Montreal tonight if you're listening to this on Tuesday, and then you get Minnesota, Toronto, Philly, Boston, New York. All teams that are good, and they're going to give you your struggles. So it's going to be interesting, and I really think it pains me to say this. This might be the year that the streak ends.
Oh,
I mean, do you think? I was kind of thinking about this. Has Ken Holland kind of suffered a similar fate that Joe Dumars had? in the Pistons. So you look at what Joe Dumars did. He came in and he won a championship for the Pistons. And then he had the bad draft with Darko. He had poor signings with Charlie V and Ben Gordon. Just really wasn't signing right guys. He traded away Billups for Allen Iverson. And then eventually the owner with that whole Bill Davidson situation, he really couldn't make a ton of moves because the status of the team was kind of up in the air. Is Ken Holland in a similar situation? He picked wrong with the Marion Hossa, Johan Franzen. He gave the big contract to Jimmy Howard. All these free agent signings or trades that he's tried to make with Legwand and Madonna, like you said, none of them have really panned out.
Mike Madonna.
And
wow.
you kind of look at Mr. I, that he's really focused all of his, the majority of his assets on the Tigers. He's trying to get a pennant there. I'm not sure if his number one priority is the Red Wings right now.
Ooh,
Is it a similar situation, or
See, here's the point that's challenging is that Holland has a lot more Stanley Cups to his name. And he was able to, I know when you say that was a different era, he was able to fit the right pieces in. A lot of teams have spent money and tried in that era to have success and didn't. I mean, Toronto's been trying as much as possible to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals and have success. I mean, they're so thirsty. I mean, they're willing to do anything at all. They're basically tanking this season in order to go forward and try to rebuild that squad. So they're hungry, they're thirsty. The Red Wings had success in the past. I think what they're having the hardest trouble with is in this salary cap era is the choices that they're making just haven't panned out. They've made, at the time, I can understand why he decided to go with Franzen. He was a guy that was a playoff performer, and he was a little bit younger. But he just got, unfortunately, a series of concussions, and he hasn't been around, and his career is probably over. The guys that you've brought in the salary cap era, you've tried to fit in pieces, and it just really hasn't panned out. So, but the question you have to ask is, are you high on these new young talent? Because I thought you would say, you know what? You got this core nucleus of young guys, Nyquist, Tatar, Mantha, Larkin. You have these guys, and you're going to start mixing them in with a little bit of veterans. I just think that the veteran mix hasn't been good, and I'm starting to question a little bit, are the young guys that Kenny Holland has pegged to be the future, they haven't shown the leadership quality just yet, and Zetterberg and Datsuk are long in the tooth. The next wave, where are they? They're kind of silent. They're not doing much this season, and they've been gone for a long stretch of time. So do I think Kenny Holland is going to be looked at as Joe Dumars? I think Kenny Holland is more successful than Joe Dumars, but in the evolution of sports, I wouldn't be mad if they fired him because he's been here so long. A new voice, you don't, sometimes when we fire people, you say, well, what was the merits behind the firing? In sports, just after 10, 15 years with an organization, sometimes it's just time for a new voice, a new energy in the room. And Kenny Holland's done a great job. I just don't think these last couple have been his best.
How long do you think Ken Holland has here? Like you said, you don't think he's in a hot seat.
No, I don't think he's on a hot seat.
Let's say they miss the playoffs this year. Is it possible that after next season that he's on the hot seat? If they have
if they miss it 2 years in a row,
what I'd say is that this is going to be a crucial offseason for him. There's names out there for them to go look at. I don't think they're probably not going to get Steven Stamkos, but there's other names out there to try and go get, like the Jakub Voracek, Dustin Byfuglien, Brent Seabrook, Kyle Okposo. There's guys out there that I would like to see him try to pursue and get somebody, because we need defense.
Yeah, we need
Nick Cronwall is not a number one defender. He can be on a top line, but he's not a number one defenseman. Nick Lidstrom was a number one defenseman. You could pair him with anybody and you'd have a top line. It has to be a Goldilocks situation for Nick Cronwall.
I understand you want to build and bring guys here, but it just in the salary cap era, you only have so much room. Some of the guys on the squad are going to need contract extensions. Some of the ones they've given out to Helm, Abdelkader, you could question and go, why are you giving so much money to guys that score 10 to 15 goals a year? I understand all that. But the thinking is, this team, the players on the Red Wings, also need to step it up as well. Now, we're not giving them full blame, but I do believe that guys like Nyquist, Tatar, AA, Larkin, Mantha, these are going to be the core. They're going to have to really take ownership of this team and be willing in the locker room to step up as leaders and move this team forward. Yes, you're going to mix in a couple of nice pieces, 1 or 2, or maybe 3 in an offseason, but it's going to be incumbent upon that core to go forward, because if that core is a bust, you set the organization back 5 years and he'll be gone. I still have a glimmer of hope. It's just the shine is off the diamond. I just don't think that I'm as high on them as I was maybe going into this year. Like you said, a year ago, you were like Trey Tatar. I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy's dropping 20 goals and is going to be a guy that's going to give you 20 goals from here on out. And this year, he's just been a big fat, long streak. Same with Nyquist. So, it really is indicative of the problems when you counted on Mantha to come in this late in the season to provide you a spark. A spark? You're in the playoff hunt. I'm hoping, and I know we're talking like they have already been eliminated, but I do believe there still is that glimmer of hope. As long as there's a chance, they'll fight, and maybe they'll get in and just maybe cause some waves. But I'm disappointed that right now we're just kind of a team that's just hoping to get into the playoffs, and if we do, the perception is we're going to get crushed anyway.
Before we take a break, we mentioned Mike Backpack real quick. That's a horrible situation in Toronto.
It's bad.
Do you think he thought it was as bad as it was? Yeah,
I think going into it, him and Brendan Shanahan were like, okay, we're going to have to unload. Because look, you unloaded the captain. This was written on the wall. They can't go out and say it, but they are tanking. They have given away pieces. They are in a full rebuild mode. He said in interviews that, our goal is to do this and that, but the next couple of years are going to be rough. He said it in so many words, without outright saying we're tanking. So it's bad, but this is what it's going to take. They're going to have to ship off those pieces and really rebuild that whole thing in Toronto.
I'm not sure if he ever turns it around. I think Toronto's bad.
I think with the right pieces and finding, the right ways through the draft, getting those draft picks and bringing in talent, I think they'll find the right guys. With Babcock and Shanahan not finding talent, I would be surprised.
Yeah, but when are they going to ever bring up the talent?
That's true.
It'll be interesting to see. Red Wings are on the downswing, but a team that is looking up, the Pistons, and we'll talk about them when we come back. Take a quick break on the Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc here for FanaticU.com, Detroit Sports official outfitter and the official outfitter of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. If you're a fan of the Red Wings, Tigers, Pistons, Lions, Michigan State, for any of your sporting needs, go visit FanaticU.com. A great selection for all the sports fans around town. And for the month of March, selected Detroit Tigers t-shirts. If you use the promo code POD, that's promo code POD, you'll save 15%. So go to FanaticU.com, shop around, and if you're a fan of the Tigers, enjoy spring training, get yourself ready for a great opening day atmosphere, great season. Go check out the gear at FanaticU.com. Detroit Sports, official outfitter.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast.com network, however you want to say it. We're back. It was kind of depressing talking about the Red Wings. For so long, they were the team that we could actually look up to. I mean, right?
This is bad.
We're always depressed about the Lions. The Pistons up until this year, and I think we kind of saw last year that their Stan was he was turning around, but they were so depressing last year. The Tigers, they failed us last year. The Red Wings were that lone beacon of hope, and now they're not. You're a dick. I know.
Listen, troublemaker. I know the vibe is cloudy around Detroit sports, but there is some sunshine trying to peek through the muddy clouds there, the many clouds, and that's our Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, up at Auburn Hills, and that's where they've been for the last 7 games.
Finally.
Pistons, they had the 9-game home streak. We talked about it last week, and I think we said, what would we be happy with on that 9-game home streak? Because they had some tough matchups coming up, and I think we said 5-4 is what you wanted to see them go. And lo and behold, with 2 games left in this homestand, they are 5-2. You know, they, after that kind of shootout loss to Atlanta with their first game, they followed it up with 2 wins against bad teams. The Milwaukee game, where I think that kind of showed that the team could come back. And I think that's one thing that we've seen in the season where every now and then, or at some point in a game, the Pistons are going to have a bad quarter, and that the Milwaukee game kind of showed that they can actually recover from being down like that. And then they beat Orlando. I don't think anybody thought that they'd beat Charlotte because they essentially got blown out by them their first two meetings, and they came out and they took care of business against Charlotte. And then they just kind of ran into a buzzsaw against Atlanta. They came out flat.
On a back-to-back game. Yeah, you understand that those things. I always go, I'm not as confident on those back-to-back games as most people are, and just say, you know what, for the most part, when they play at the second night of a back-to-back, it's always going to be a struggle.
They came out flat in the game, and I don't think it was that they played awful, but it was almost, it reminded me a lot of the MSU Middle Tennessee State game, where they kept battling, but Atlanta just kept making shots. They could essentially they could do anything. I mean, Paul Millsap almost had like a 5-5 game, which would have been crazy if he didn't get headbutted by the meat. But they still got Oklahoma City and Dallas left on this homestand. I think they can definitely split it.
I think so too. Yeah.
Oklahoma City, they're OKC. It's Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. They're going to come at you. Those two are going to score points. And I think it's going to be, everyone is going to have to get involved.
So what you see is not only what we asked for finally for the Pistons to have success. Andre Drummond versus Charlotte was just the best player on the floor. And he was a guy that was, scooping up rebounds, was efficient, was putting the ball in the basket. And then another player that we've been just begging to be more consistent, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. This is a guy that I think has been a little bit underplayed in terms of his importance. Now, yes, he's a player that we've all talked about, and yes, he's a guy that is a very important part of that team, but when he plays well, the Pistons have a really dangerous team because he's just that other weapon that can go alongside Reggie Jackson. Contavious Caldwell-Pope has to be looked upon as a leader on this team too. He has to elevate himself, be more consistent, versus Charlotte. He was 8 from 13 from the floor, 2 of 4 from the 3-point line, and scored 21 points in the game. A guy like that, if he can drop 20 points a game and be more consistent, be more efficient, this is a team that actually, if you start looking at it, wouldn't be so ridiculous if they're the 8th seed to go up against a struggling Cleveland team and maybe do some damage, maybe even pull that upset. KCP is an important cog, and I think he should be, viewed as such.
The thing with KCP, though, and my counterpart who's not here, Vinny, he always brings it up that KCP is a completely different player at home and on the road.
Right.
And it's they've been on a 7 game so far. They've been at home for the past 7 games, and he's been playing really well. They kind of have a starting 5 now who they're solid. You got Andre Drummond, and I want to talk a little bit about Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, those are your 2 big guys who are going to be your leaders. KCP and Marcus Morris are the next 2, I think, who KCP is the guy that he's been here, and I think he's going to be that kind of Mr. Big Shot kind of guy. And Marcus Morris has been around a little bit. I think he gives you a little bit more veteran presence. And I don't know, who's the last guy? KCP, Reggie Jackson, Tobias Harris. How can we forget about Tobias Harris?
Youngster.
They're I think they're like 12-5 or 12-6.
Great addition, great trade.
Since he joined the team. I wanted him since last season. I wish they would have gotten him, but he's been probably the best addition. And I think if they make any type of run, it's gonna consist of all 5 of those guys. And I think Vinny was complaining about Aaron Baines last week. That's another guy who's kind of started to show up in this homestand. He's contributing a little bit more point wise, and I think he kind of gives you that when they go to the hack-a-drum that you can put in Baines, and you can't foul him because he does shoot free throws better than Andre Drummond, but I think probably anybody shoots better than Andre. I do want to get to Andre Drummond. Is
double machine, 61 doubles on the season. That's amazing.
He's probably going to break Isaiah Thomas's record this season. But you saw what he could do in the Charlotte game, and I know we've talked about if he's a max player or not. I think it's a little concerning that you see him turn it on one game and then it's just completely off the next game.
More people are bringing it up that because some people are saying, would you be willing to move Drummond for maybe a Boogie Cousins. And the argument against that is Cousins is a guy that's just in it for the money. He's not a team guy. Is a chemistry nightmare. But what you see with Andre Drummond, and the reason why you want to keep him, and it allows him to kind of still be that guy that has a high upside. He's only 22 years old, 3 years in the league, and people are like, this is what he's doing now at 22. We want more. It's a now society. But when you look at Andre Drummond, dude can ball. Dude has the ability. That there are some things that he has to improve. He has to be on the floor in late game situations if you're going to pay him all that money. He is worth it. He's going to get it. So it's going to be a mute argument. You can have that discussion if you want to pay him, but with a couple different adjustments, if he gets better on the defensive end, if he develops one additional shot, mid-range game, it's a guy you got to pay when he's 25 years old, he could be the closest thing to Shaq that we've seen in a long time.
But why don't you think? Because I think the problem is that he just doesn't come in. He isn't focused and ready to play.
But don't centers take a little bit longer to kind of get there because he's a young cat. He's still learning, and that position is super tough. You got to have a lot of responsibilities. You got to handle and it's no easy feat to guard the other 7-foot center.
But I don't think it's a matter of him learning how to play the position. I think he knows how to play the position. I think he can probably be a little bit better on the defensive side. But we've seen that when he gives a full effort in a game, he's the game changer. He's the leader on the team, and he's the X factor that the team needs. And I mean, why is it just because he's 22 years old? I mean, he's been in the league for 3 years that he doesn't know when to turn it on and turn it off. I mean, and what I'd say is this entire team. I mean, it's a very young team altogether. I think it's going to take them getting into the playoffs and seeing what that atmosphere is like. I think that's what's happened when they've played Atlanta the past 2 times. Is Atlanta comes in, they know what they're doing, they know what it takes to be in the playoffs, and they come in and they handle business. They know how to play us, and they can win. And I don't think the Pistons have that mentality of coming in, night out, giving maximum effort, especially when we're coming down the home stretch trying to get into the playoffs. I think they have an idea. I'm just not sure if they execute every single night.
That is the mark of a young team. But as we're sitting and recording this, it's 39 wins, 35 losses. They've had a successful homestand. It's well deserved. They played a lot of games on the road.
2 more wins and they'll be at 500.
See, and
that's crazy.
I do believe they'll get there. And I do believe that they are peaking at the right time, which is a good thing, and allows us to maybe even consider talk of a playoff series, maybe versus Cleveland and their struggles. But in terms of Andre Drummond, that is the next step in his development. I don't think that 22-year-olds who 3 years into the league, there's too many of them out there that are just ready to bring it night in, night out. So if you really think about it, this would potentially be his senior year, either his senior year in college or his rookie season in the NBA. Most guys at that level, unless you're a Kobe, unless you're a top 5, top 1%er in terms of the NBA, it's still a learning process. So I know that you say that he should just know to bring it night in, night out. I just don't think that this generation's athlete and this generation of NBA players are ready yet at that young age to kind of come in, night out, going on the road, doing things differently, leading a different kind of lifestyle. It's just that simple. You make it sound kind of easy. It's not. And he is producing pretty well. So I know you're going to give him credit for all the good numbers he has put up. We just want to see more of it. And I do believe that's why they're going to max him out, is because, well, I guess that is the question mark, is if you give him that money, does he just fall off the face of the earth and just be a little bit selfish like Butler in Chicago? They gave him the money. And that's why I guess you could be anxious. They gave him the money out there, and he's turned into a malcontent. And the Bulls are just ridiculous. They should be nowhere near the bottom of the rankings like they are now. They should be right there top 3 like we all thought. But I do believe, though, if you give him the money, I don't think that he's going to take it and just waste his talent. He will hustle and try to do the best that he can. That's my initial thought on it. I think he will grow into that role, and you never know. Put him in a playoff round, he might just step up his game. I hope we get a chance to see it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're coming down the home stretch here, the end of the NBA season. Pistons currently sit in the 8th spot. They have a 2-game lead against the Bulls. They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to still bring it, though.
They're gonna have to bring it. The schedule looks
Chicago still. They have a tough schedule as well. The 2 games you definitely have to look at for the Pistons are the game against Chicago this upcoming Saturday, and then the following Friday against Washington. You have to beat those two because those are the two teams who are immediately behind you, who are going to give you the biggest push to get into the playoffs. But I mean, the rest of the games you're probably gonna have to try and split. OKC tonight, Dallas later in the week, Miami. Those are all playoff teams. Those are all winnable, but they're all playoff teams. I'd like to see them take care of Orlando. They have Miami again right before the season ends, and then hopefully Cleveland. We've played Cleveland tough.
We were 2-0 against them this year. 2 wins against Cleveland, so
it'll be interesting to see. I
think it's the last game of the year is versus Cleveland.
Yep, and that could be an interesting matchup. Mm-hmm. I don't want to presume anything because as soon as I presume something,
the opposite happens.
Something's going to happen. But if we're in that 8th spot, Cleveland has number 1 sealed up. You're talking about finishing the season against Cleveland and then immediately starting
a series versus them.
A series against Cleveland.
Yeah,
I think it could be really cool.
Well, a lot of talk maybe and in the circles is if they've got it locked up, then that last game, Cleveland may just kind of maybe ease up a little bit, keep those superstars on the bench there, and might bring into conversation the talk of competitive balance, because that's been talked about in the NBA quite a bit of times when the Spurs kind of wrap it up early. They rest their players, even against teams that are fighting for the playoffs, and a lot of the other teams in the West are like, hey, hold up here. We're still fighting for the playoffs, and you're messing up the competitive balance. Cleveland might be just in that same spot, and that we might just be a team that benefits from that, getting that last win, getting to the playoffs.
It'll be interesting to see because if we still need to win that game to get in the playoffs, but if we do have 8th spot locked up, then I mean we could also just rest our players.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think. I don't know.
What now? How far are we behind number 7? Because
it's really close.
Because I want to play that delicate dance of, listen, I want to get into the postseason. I'd rather be the 6th seed than the 7th because I feel like we'd get swept or 5 games and get walloped by
We're
Toronto.
a half game right now behind the Pacers. But
oh man,
the Cavs are Toronto though. I think both.
How many are we out of 6th?
3.5.
Oh boy,
so
if we do step it up and play well, we could firmly see ourselves in the 7th spot. I'd rather be the 8th. I'll be honest. They better figure out a way to stay in that 8th spot.
8 games left. I think if you actually wanted them to try and bump up to like 6, they probably have to go 6-2.
That's not going to happen. So you're going to look at either getting in or being the 7th seed. If they do well, 3-3 or 4-4, around 500, then you have a chance if Indiana tails off to be in that 7th spot. Well, I guess you want to have a series. You want to be able to, but I'd much rather have the series versus a team that you've had success against. Toronto's just a horrible matchup.
Yeah, we just have not been able to match up against them at all.
But you see them in the playoffs, right? You think that what you've seen, they've been good, and I think that fans of Detroit finally deserve a playoff experience with the Pistons because, you know, they've been out of it, I think, since 2009, and the stock for them has been really, really low. It'll be nice for them to actually have a series, and let's see what they can do when the spotlight is much brighter on them. I think they might step up.
Yeah, they are not very good against Toronto right now. Just in the games that they've played against them, KCP, Reggie, they've both averaged about 15 points a game. Drummond only in 3 games has 12 points per game against them with 14 rebounds. Let's check it out against how they're doing against Cleveland. Oh, Cleveland. Oh, man. Reggie and Andre in 3 games against Cleveland. Actually, Reggie, Andre, they both are averaging 20 points. KCP averaging 17. It's bring on the Cavs.
Bring on the Cavs.
And
That's what I'm saying.
I want to spoil LeBron James. I think he's dejected. I think he's given up in Cleveland. And bring it on. Let's
bring on those Cavs, man. We want to come.
I guess I have to officially take back what I said that the Pistons are going to make the playoffs now.
They're going to make the playoffs. We're going to have some fun. I believe it too. All right, let's take a quick timeout. Come right back. And then we got to talk about something going on that fascinated both of us and something that I think Vinny, myself, and you probably wouldn't want to have happen if someone peeked into our phones.
No, I really would not want them to look at my phone. We'll be back. We also got Length or Girth on the Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
thanks everyone out there for supporting us and actually responding to our call to action. To support our project, to support the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, all that we ask is you go to DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the hub of our operation. It's where you can go to download the 5 to 6 weekly episodic podcasts that we run here. Great podcasts that all the hosts are passionate about and trying to do each and every week to make the network strong. If you go to the website, you can get great deals on hats, t-shirts. If you're a fan of Amazon, you can click through the banner. And anytime you shop online, they kick us back a little something. And it helps to keep the mics hot, the lights in the office on here in Sterling Heights. Helps keep the many projects on the internet airwaves. And we greatly appreciate it. So go visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate it.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast.com. It's Jarvi the King, Jason Jarvi, and John Macaroon, the Doc.
The Doc, the Podfather, the King of the Couch.
The Phone.
The Phone. I'm racking up nicknames like no other. I almost got as many nicknames as Jim Harbaugh has Twitter beefs.
Oh, I hate Jim Harbaugh. If I didn't have to talk about Jim Harbaugh ever again, it would be too soon.
Well, I got a feeling we might be talking about him just a little bit later on. But before length or girth, we were talking before we started this, and across the scroll, I love notifications on my phone. I get them all the time, and sometimes some interesting news just pops right up. Today, not the best news with whatever was going on in the Capitol. The FBI versus Apple. And the FBI's premise, if you've been, not paying attention, is, when the terrorist attack happened in San Bernardino, they wanted to get into those guys. They wanted to get into their iPhones and see what the heck was going on in there and things like that. And so Apple was like, oh, hold on. We're willing to talk to you, but we're not going to just give you, ways to just go into the phones and just hack into any phones. We want to have some parameters. We don't want you just to be able to go into anybody's phone in the cloud and have access to everything that everybody's doing, because then you're basically going to have a big problem commercially in terms of selling your product if everybody knew that what's on your iPhone could be out there to the government or easily attached. But today, the FBI was able to just find a measure, and they got into the phone without Apple. So they just said, you know what, fine. You don't want to tell us. We'll drop the lawsuit. We just did it. So I just thought, to ask you, and I know for sure that, when the whole scandal was going on with Sony, when the whole thing was going on with the celebrities and their photos was getting up there in the cloud and getting released to everybody, it kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I don't want people going through my phones, and I don't want them reading my texts. I don't want them reading my emails. I don't want them going through my folders. So is this concerning to you? Government just went in and said, hey, now we're just going to open this phone up.
I mean, what I think the big thing here you have to realize, too, is that they actually have the phone. So I think initially they need to actually have possession of your phone to get into it. I think it becomes a bigger concern if you're talking about
the cloud and everything.
Yeah, in the cloud, how much is actually in the cloud? And I'm not sure. I think smarter people than us probably know what is actually in there. But I think when you're talking about if the government had the ability to be in Washington, D.C. and literally log into any phone, that's when I start to get concerned. But I think this is a case where, they actually had the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
it was a matter of time, because, there's so many people out there who can they can break into anything. I mean, literally, I'm pretty sure at some point in everybody's lives, they're going to have some sort of something stolen digitally. I know I've had my credit card twice has been stolen. I think once from a gas station and once from that stupid the PlayStation issue. When
they got you?
Yeah. And it was dumb because I put in my information one time, and I remember exactly when it happened. It was I was going to dinner with my wife. We were having a nice dinner at a Japanese steakhouse. I give my card. I knew I had money because it was payday, and oh, your card's declined.
He's like, so, what? Mr. Jarvi, I'm sorry.
So I called my bank. I'm like, what's happening? Like, there's been a temporary hold. There's a company had a risk, so we had to cancel your card. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, and I was like, was it the PlayStation thing? And they're like, oh, we can't disclose that. I'm like, yeah, it was PlayStation.
So did you wash dishes at the joint, or what? How'd you end up paying for the food?
My wife's card wasn't on there, so
okay.
We figured it out. But it's not anybody can hack into anything. It's just a matter of time. So
I'll ask, is there something on your phone that you don't want the government looking into?
Nothing like bad.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, nothing like. There's nothing that's on my phone that's gonna like.
You're a morally. I've seen your Facebook. You're a morally upstanding citizen. You're a good guy.
I mean, there's gonna be stuff on my phone that when they look at, they're gonna be like, "Huh? Really, man?"
Okay.
But there's nothing on there that's gonna, give me jail time or anything.
No.
And I hope there's nothing on your phone for that.
Not jail time, but I have text messages, folders, things like that. That I look into. But it's nothing illegal, thank goodness. For those out there, they're going, huh?
It's a very touchy situation.
It is.
I really get both sides of the argument. The FBI wanted to, and this is it was a terrorist, and they wanted to see if there was any information on the phone. But then I also get Apple's point of view is that
you got to have parameters here. That's all they wanted was to set up appropriate parameters because, I think that if the government was just able to free flow and just get into any phone, if they were just able to have that access, I wouldn't buy an iPhone. I'd have to switch.
I might not have a phone. I think, and that would really be an interesting situation to see what happens if it came out that they could literally log into any phone that they wanted. Would there actually be a decline on mobile phones? We've
you do know, but there really hasn't been when you know that there are people watching. I just think it's one of those things where if it doesn't affect you, you know that any text message you send is out there stored. They can subpoena it. If you write weird stuff on Facebook, some people will see it and tag it. Really, your social media footprint. I mean, if you wanted to tweet something and it was really bad, it doesn't go away. Yeah. Some idiot out there is going to save it and then it's going to pop up again. So it's. I would say.
That's one of the reasons why I don't do social media as much as I do.
Right.
Because so many times I've written so many Facebook comments, so many tweets that and that's probably good for me. Yeah. Is that I usually write it and then I read through it again. I'm like, what is is there anything wrong in this? Did I misspell anything to look dumb? And usually it happens on Facebook comments where I'll type it out. And then I'll reread it, and then probably the last thing that I think of is, what is this going to do? How is this going to affect me? Is it really matter that much to me that I need to write this Facebook comment on a person's wall because they said something so ridiculous?
Right, exactly.
And more often than not, it doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I think that people are sharing way too much stuff on social media. Yeah, there's a lot of trolls out there. But, in terms of the government, as long as it's a matter of national security and we don't have to know about it, it's not so public, I'm all for it. If you have to intercept some people's messages and we can keep it secret and not have to talk about it, that's fine.
Unfortunately, nowadays, though, that's not going to...
It's not. People are looking. People are looking at the FBI going, hey, are you violating my rights? I do believe there should be some things that are private with the government, but people out there in the media and some people who are like government watchdogs, they don't let that happen. So I just think that in this situation, they went behind Apple's back and just did it. So I guess kudos to them. They were able to figure it out, or maybe on some level, someone was wise enough just to shoot that information to them because, hey, if you have to pay, if you have to show the green, or if you have to give certain privileges to someone to show you how to do certain things, I'm all for it. Some things shouldn't have to be public, but it actually makes you think about what's on your phone nowadays and I don't do too much storing to the iCloud. I'm like a year behind, but I have to do it because I have a lot of files. But I try not to do it because that 2015 leak with all those pictures was crazy. It's crazy what's going on with these phones. And I kind of sometimes think, because Adam's a conspiracy theorist, did the government kind of want all these phones out there so they can keep even a better tab? They give you a social security number when you're born so they can tax the hell out of you. They give you phones now. What else are they going to give us to hang ourselves with? And the phones...
I can see Adam with the tinfoil hat.
Oh, Adam and his conspiracy theories. They're great. You should have a chat with them, man. They're fun to listen to.
We should have a new podcast, Conspiracy Theories, with the Jock.
With the Jock. Maybe we'll dial them up one day and just get a couple of them.
Yeah.
We should do that. We should do that. We'll just dial him up in a couple shows or so and just get a couple of his theories that he finds to be that he values the most. It'd be interesting. Troublemaker, your phone is clean. Mine would give anyone's phone a virus, so we'll just keep it at that.
Okay. But anyways, without further ado,
the best segment of the week.
There's no Vinny, but we still carry on in his memory. It's time for Length or Girth. Yep. Thanks to you. Oh, what's the? Why? Let's get all the Vinny drops out there. Wait, who are you talking about? Oh my God! All right. First question on Length or Girth. Doc. The Tigers, they're wrapping up spring training. I think next Friday is opening day.
Woohoo!
They sent Bruce Rondon down to the minors. The guy who they sent home last September for lack of effort. How long is he going to be there? Can we stand him not being in there?
I just think
rotation?
He might have to be called up, not due to performance, but the bullpen hasn't been that great. So it's a big question mark still. Bruce Rondon is now a bigger question mark, getting sent down. He got rocked. I mean, K-Rod's trying his best to go out there and talk to him and teach him, but maybe he needs a little stint in the minors. But I think he'll be back probably within the first 25 games.
I will say Girth as well, just because
Get him back.
That's the way baseball is. There's no reason because I want to see him. He needs to earn my trust back again.
And real simple, it's been explained before. In the minors, you get more teaching. So if there's any more video looks at his arms angles and his pitching prowess and things like that, where in Major League Baseball, you just don't have that time. So a quick stint in the minors, look at film, fix the problem, get back up, earn that spot. Otherwise, it's a big problem.
So I'll say Girth for that. It's just the way baseball works.
Girth.
Question 2 on Length or Girth. Jim Harbaugh, Jesus in khakis. Just wrapped up his 1,000th Twitter beef last week with Ohio State athletic director Gene Smith. Gene Smith completely backed down and pussed out. I mean, would you agree? He pussed out of that.
Oh, they took it out of context.
He's like, "Oh, I
should have.
I wouldn't want to. I don't want to upset Ward Manuel."
Oh God, he should have fought. He should have fired back. It would have been a good thing to do. I think sometimes maybe in jest, Jim Harbaugh was reacting to what was said, and I do think that he'll be in a Twitter beef rather quickly. So
that's the question. I never got to it.
Yes.
How long is it going to be for somebody else to call out Jim Harbaugh? And Length or Girth, when's Jim Harbaugh going to be in another Taylor Swift feud?
Girth. By the time we probably drop this and send it over to iTunes, he'll probably be messaging someone and getting into someone's business. So I do believe that, he is a wrestling fan. He is a guy that's hung out with Ric Flair. So there is a little bit of that to him. He's just a guy that is not going to take no gruff from nobody. So in that sense, I don't think too much time will pass before he shoots off another tweet. Girth.
I wish it was Length because I'm just so tired. So tired of Jim Harbaugh. But I have to say it's going to be Girth. It might even be over WrestleMania. He might tweet at The Undertaker because, I don't know, he doesn't like the way he wears his pants. Or he's not eating Wheaties and Gatorade and not drinking enough milk. But it's going to be about something, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. I hate you, Jim Harbaugh. I hate you, Michigan. But I hate you, Jim Harbaugh. Third question. Length or Girth? Mike Pelfrey and Shane Green looking to be the 4 and 5 starters for the Tigers rotation. Daniel Norris dealing with an awful sounding injury in that. Was it spinal something? Apparently they said it's not as bad as it sounds. But more than likely, Mike Pelfrey, Shane Green, gonna be your 4 and 5 starters come the start of the season. And Shane Green has looked good. Mike Pelfrey got roughed up in a minor league situation. But how long are those guys actually going to last there? I know last year, Shane Green, I think I probably predicted him to be really, really good, and it came back to bite me in the ass. So, and I know Vinny probably takes credit for saying that he was going to be awful, but he also says that everyone's going to be awful. So I'm not sure if you can really credit Vinny that. But Length or Girth? These two guys, Pelfrey, Shane Green, in the starting rotation for the Tigers?
I'm going to say length. I think that Shane Green is coming back. He's had a good spring. Mike Pelfrey's going to be the outlier. He's going to be the question mark. I mean, his sinker in that last performance versus Houston was horrid. And he's had a rough spring training. Adam doesn't like him. He's going to be a guy that's going to probably be in and out of starting rotation. But I think to start the season, he probably will be there. He was an acquisition from Alavilo. They'll give him a chance. It's like one of those things where early in the season, the fourth and fifth guys aren't counted on as much because of the early breaks and stuff like that. So the top three are very important. Mike Pelfrey's going to be that guy that we're going to have to wait and see. Shane Green could lock up that spot, but Pelfrey will be the first guy that's boosted once Norris comes back. But Norris has to produce. So I'm hoping that, Mike Pelfrey at least can handle the job before Norris gets back in there. So I'm going to say length.
I'm going to go 50-50 here. Shane Green, I'm going to go Girth. Because I think he's going to be that key to our bullpen. I'm not sure how long Alex Wilson's going to be, if he's going to be fully healthy come the start of the season. And Shane Green can really help out our bullpen, be another longer reliever. I think we need that. One of our big issues the last couple of years has been our bullpen. We just don't have the back end to help out the starters. So I think he's gonna be crucial this year for our bullpen. But Mike Pelfrey, I'm gonna go opposite of both of you and Adam. I think he's gonna be fifth starter for the majority of the year, and I think we're gonna get what we expect from a fifth starter. I think probably 10 to 12 wins is what you can expect to see from him.
Do you have a bonus question for length or girth?
I do have a bonus question.
Let me pod this down so we can get nice and clear.
We've been waiting for the Vinny Stubbs show.
The Vinny Stubbs show.
He's been trying to debut this new podcast. I'm not sure what he's going to be talking about, but he's been talking about it. He's brought in his mixer past couple weeks, basically just saying, dude, give me all your chords, man. How do I hook this up?
How do I talk into the mic? Doc, help me out.
I hooked up the wires the wrong way. What happens? So, the extra question for length or girth. Vinny Stubbs show, the debut of the Vinny Stubbs show, length or girth?
Well, being that I didn't know the delay happened until, I know about the first delay. The second delay I didn't know about until, the second delay I didn't find out about until I read his Twitter page. Because I'm browsing Twitter, looking around, and I'm just getting a sense of, hey, what's going on? And someone tweeted him, hey, someone actually messaged him and said, hey, where's your show? And he's like, I delayed it till the beginning of April. So I'm like, hey. Granted, you know what? I'm happy that he's taking his time. He's only really promoted it like once, a little bit of talking about it. So I'm really happy that, because we have standards here. We want to put stuff that's over the internet, have the shows be good, executed well produced. We don't want to do too many technical glitches or nothing like that. That's why I love editing it and putting out the best product that we can over the airwaves. So if he's going to take his time, that's fine. I just would need him to kind of just let the doc know what's going on, brother.
So length or girth?
Length. I'm going to say if the show comes out at all, if the show comes out at all, I'll be shocked.
You got some angry people in the crowd.
They want
the Vinny Stubbs show.
The Vinny Stubbs show. Let's go, Vinny. If you're downloading this podcast, the Vinny Stubbs show needs to happen. Let's go.
I will guarantee we're going to see the Vinny Stubbs show in the next 2 weeks. So, Girth.
I'm hoping. Prove me wrong, Vinster.
I'm excited. I want to hear what he has to say.
I do too. I'm looking forward to typing in the Vinny Stubbs show, a show description, but it has to happen. He has to actually sit down, record it, produce it, and let's see what happens. It's got an audience there, man. People were actually waiting for it.
Well,
Vinny, get this show on the road, man. Let's go.
Well, that'll do it for length or girth. I think that essentially does it for this episode of
Good stuff, sir.
Motor City Sports Rant. John, I appreciate you being here as always. It was a nice flowing show.
Thank you.
A lot of give and take.
I enjoyed the chat, man. I always enjoy chatting with you, with the fellas. a good thing, man. Have fun, and breaks up the day, and we get a chance to just, really vent and talk about the things that we love in Detroit sports. So you're a good dude, and I'll fill you in after we stop recording about who told me you're a troublemaker.
Okay, I look forward to that. Hopefully Vinny Stubbs is here next week. Hopefully we have
Why?
Yeah. Well, because
Vinny wasn't here?
I know, it's crazy. But hopefully he's here next week. Hopefully we have his new show shortly. But for for John Macaroon, I'm Jason Jarvi. This is the Motor City Sports Rant on Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Have a good week. I don't know. Well, you might just want to cut that part out.
Okay, nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.